Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Garden of Sports. I'm your host, Zach Gardner, alongside Jake Gardner.
Hello, hello.
And today we have our Week 4 breakdown of the hockey season. So we have top performers, top storylines, some players to put on your watch lists, best and worst schedules, top streaming options, and of course, scoop them up. So we have a lot to dive into. So without any further ado, let's do this. So we're just gonna go on over to top performers, and I'll start it off with top 5 centers of the week.
Mm-hmm.
So number 1, Nick Suzuki, 26 points. He just started going off this week, which is good to see because Montreal just started so slow as a team this season. But he looks like he's definitely breaking out into that star player people thought he could be. So looks like he's getting that rolling now. And then number 2, Austin Matthews, 25.75. We're probably going to start seeing a lot more of him on these lists. Looks like he's back into form. Number 3, Patrice Bergeron, 24 fantasy points. Number 4, Brock Nelson, 21.75 fantasy points. And we'll be talking more about Brock Nelson later in the show, so stay tuned for that.
Ooh.
And then number 5, center, Brady Tkachuk with 21 fantasy points.
Heck yeah. Left wing, Leon Draisaitl. Draisaitl. God, yeah, I've heard you say that a million times. 31.75 fantasy points. One off. Matthew Tkachuk, 22.5 fantasy points. Brad Marchand, 19.5 fantasy points. Jaden Schwartz, 17.75 fantasy points. And Erasmus Asplund, 17.5 fantasy points.
We'll be talking about him later in the show as well. And then right wing, coming in at number 1, Mitchell Marner, 27.25 fantasy points. Patrick Kane, 24.5 fantasy points. Jordan Eberle, 23.25 fantasy points. Matt Duchene, 18.25 fantasy points. And coming in at number 5, Drake Batherson, 17.5 fantasy points.
Nice. You had defenseman. Got a decent amount here, so buckle up. Darnell Nurse, 23.75 fantasy points. I regret not keeping him. Brent Burns, 23.5 fantasy points. Adam Fox, 22.25 fantasy points. Shane
Gostisbehere,
21 fantasy points. Mario Ferraro, 21 fantasy points. I was looking at him. Did you already grab him or what?
I didn't because I have loaded defense. So
okay, Alex
Pietrangelo,
18.5 fantasy points. Kevin Shattenkirk, 18.5 fantasy points.
And then ending our top performers with goalies, Jack Campbell, 29 fantasy points. Robin Lehner, 21.75 fantasy points. Some bum named Ilya Sorokin with 20 fantasy points. Carter Hart, 17.5 fantasy points. And Mikko Koskinen, 16.5 fantasy points. So that's our top performers. Hopefully you guys had a number of these guys and you won your weeks easily.
Yeah.
So now we're going to buckle up. We're going to break into some injury news. We're just going to kind of fly through these.
It's all you.
These are the top ones of the week. So, and a lot of big news this week too. So, Alexander Barkov out with a lower body injury, didn't play Saturday. They haven't really released anything on him as of when we're recording this on Sunday. So just stay tuned tomorrow. A lot of times they will give you news on weekend injuries on Monday. So just, pay attention to what they come out with him, if he's going to be day to day or week to week type of thing. Dougie Hamilton out with a lower body. He's missed 2 games so far and counting. This is a big one here. Cale Makar placed on IR with upper body injury on Tuesday. They're saying right now that he'll miss a week, but we just got to see how that goes and see if he progresses well through whatever he's doing with his injury.
Okay.
Patrick Laine placed on IR with oblique strain and will miss 4 to 6 weeks. That's huge because he was having a bounce back year. That really sucks. Drew Doughty placed on long-term injured reserve on Thursday, and we were kind of expecting that with everything they were saying about his lower body injury last week, they did not make it sound good at all. So this doesn't really come as a shock, but now it's just confirmed long term. Going to miss a lot of time. Mikhail Sergachev has been suspended for 2 games for an illegal check to the head on Toronto's Mitch Marner on Thursday. So that's, you get what's coming to you when you do stuff like that. Torrey Krug is in COVID protocol. Timo Meier is in COVID protocol. This one kind of hurts. Philip Forsberg out with an upper body injury. They're saying he's week to week, so we don't really know how long he's going to miss. I'm assuming like 3-4 weeks. Eric Carlson is in COVID protocol.
Yeah, it's starting to go around in basketball too, so that could be. Hopefully, we're not about to see some shutdowns again.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
In sports, I mean, not anywhere else, but
yeah. Victor Olefson has missed 4 games with an undisclosed injury, and so I wonder what that's all about. Jared McCann is in COVID protocol. Trevor Zegras, day-to-day with an upper body injury. And then this one really hurts. Anthony Mantha was just placed on long-term injured reserve with a shoulder injury, and he just had surgery on Friday, so he's going to be out. Who knows when he'll come back? It's going to be a long little while. Jonathan Drouin out with they have him labeled with a head injury, so I think he might be in concussion protocol. But they say he'll be back soon, so hopefully only miss a couple games if you own him. Brett Pesce, week to week with an undisclosed injury, and that really stinks because he was on pace to be one of my top scoops for this week because he had an amazing week. But then, right at the end of the week, he has a has a really bad injury, and he's going to be week to week now. So he didn't end up making my list. And then there's Paul Stastny and Mark Scheifele. Both dates, so we just got to see how that goes. And then lastly, Kevin LeBlanc is in COVID protocol. So a lot of injuries.
for sure.
So now we're just going to move on over to our top storylines of the week. So obviously there's the big one that we got to talk about a little bit. The big news that broke earlier in the week, Jack Eichel traded to the Vegas Golden Knights this week. So I got the trade information up here. So the Vegas traded Peyton Krebs, who was their first-round pick last year, and Alex Tuck, and a future first-round draft pick and a future second-round draft pick to Buffalo for Jack Eichel and a future third-round draft pick. So that was the full trade. So don't really know. We got to see how Peyton Krebs does, but Alex Tuck is a very nice player. He'll fit right into the top 6 in Buffalo for sure whenever he's healthy. He's on injury reserve right now. So, I mean, they gave up a lot for Eichel, and I was looking a little more into it because there was like the whole thing with Buffalo is they were having big disagreements going back and forth with Jack Eichel because he wanted to get this special surgery that's not a normal surgery that sports players get. As far as I'm with very little a little bit of research on this seems like a surgery that definitely is not geared toward active people is the type of thing. So it's not normally one that athletes would get, but that's what he wanted to get, I guess. I don't know why, but it's this artificial disc replacement surgery. And apparently Vegas is willing to let him do that, so Buffalo wasn't, so that's hence why we have the trade now. So I don't know, Jake, what do you think about that with artificial disc replacement surgery?
I don't know, maybe it's just some frontline medicine. Maybe he saw his own specialist, and they recommended this.
Maybe there's been
he obviously wouldn't just come up with it on his own, so.
Well, obviously not, but I'm wondering I haven't read there's not a lot of information out there on this type of thing. I'm wondering if there's been like in the last year or two like some new breakthroughs with this type of thing or something, maybe the new technology to make it a little more, a little not as what am I trying to say here?
Yeah, I don't know.
Make it a little better, just maybe not as much recovery time or something, maybe a little less impact on the body for something like that type of thing,
Yeah. I really have no idea, but he's only going to be back late season, right?
They're saying at the earliest he'll be back end of March, early April. So just in time to play the last few games before the actual hockey playoffs.
Yeah, so fantasy.
For fantasy,
really
that
relevant.
would be like maybe championship round. But in our league, we end a week earlier than most, so he's not going to be back in our league unless he's ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
So, we're not going to know that for months still. If he's even ahead of schedule, they're not going to release anything like that, for a while. So, but that's just, something to monitor. Obviously, breaking news that we had to talk about because there is fantasy implications to something like that. I think it seems like a good trade on paper. We just have to see because Eichel does have a nice little injury history. So he's Eichel. He's great when he plays, but is not often playing is the problem with him. So we just got to see how that goes. I mean, if he can play a full season and stay healthy for a playoff run, Vegas definitely increases their Stanley Cup odds. But he's got to be on the ice for that.
Definitely.
So, and then another storyline going on. Jacob Chichron, defenseman on the Arizona Coyotes. He was a top 10 defenseman last season, and he had 18 goals, and it looked like he was breaking out into a star player. And he's been just absolutely terrible to start this season, and I'm just wondering what we can make of that, if you think it's just a slow start or if you think this is something that, because Arizona did over the offseason trade away 3 of their top scorers forward-wise from last season, and they didn't really replace them with anybody that's kind of stepped up as of now. So I'm just wondering, he lost a lot of his people that he would get assists with last year. And they didn't really replace those guys. So I'm just wondering if this is, a time to drop Chichron or maybe pick him up thinking that he will end up, getting that scoring going again.
Even I rely on you for that.
Pick him up if somebody dropped him, or maybe do a trade for him if you're in a really deep league where people are still holding on to him. But he did drop about 10% in ESPN in owned percentage over the last week. So people are dropping him. Sorry about that, everybody.
Yeah.
Who invited this junior high kid in here? Jeez.
Yeah, for real.
But my personal opinion, I think Chichron's got a ton of talent. I think he is gonna start scoring. Maybe not 18 goals, but I think that he will start picking up some scoring. He's not going to be as bad as he's been to start the year. I just think he's had a really slow start. And I think that if somebody has dropped him, definitely worth adding if you can just drop like the worst player on your bench and pick up Chichron. And I think there's just kind of low risk to that because you can just easily drop him if he doesn't do anything. But that's kind of my feeling. I don't know if I would trade for him just yet. I'd like to maybe see a couple games of him getting that scoring touch back, and then maybe I would trade for him because he would still be considered a buy low at that point. But that's kind of my opinion on it. I think you just got to still give it a little more time. But it's just one of those interesting storylines because there's always a player every year that everybody expects to take that next step, and then they end up regressing. So I just wonder if that's the case with this guy.
Sure. Yeah, I wouldn't really know. So.
And then my next one, these are 2 guys that you own, Jake. Are Marieth, Cider, and Artem Zub for real? These are 2 rookie defensemen that are kind of taken the league by storm over the last couple of weeks?
Well, Cider's been since like week 1. I grabbed him like week 1. Just because I was weak at defenseman, so it was easy for me to grab him. But he's kept this above 4 average based the whole time. So, and we also are in like a somewhat banger league, but he gets goals and assists as well. Like he gets a lot of assists. So
yeah,
I think he's one that's for sure.
He's getting a ton of ice time.
Yeah, and he's getting plus 20 minutes, and then Zub. I think the jury's still out on him. It may just be more of he's getting assists, but like,
he's on the top power play. He's on the top line. He's paired with a defenseman, one of my favorite defensemen in the whole league, and Thomas Chabot. And the two of them look like a very good pair. They complement each other very well.
It's just he has got a 3.4 average in the half-point banger league.
I think he's good in the banger league because he hits and blocks and shoots.
Yeah, so I don't know how good he is otherwise, and if the assists are sustainable, but he is getting the minutes.
That's what you like to see.
He's kind of like a streamer for me. I'm just kind of watching him.
He's a low risk streamer at the moment and could be a hold type of thing. You're thinking?
Yeah, I'm just seeing how long he stays hot with him. I feel like Cider I can keep all season.
Yeah, I feel like both of these guys are potential to be holds for the whole season. I feel like these guys should be a lot higher owned than they are. We're still in that weird spot where how the year's going is still getting figured out. A lot of guys, there's a ton of guys you're going to hear me talk about in this episode that are so low owned. It's ridiculous from how they've been playing to what their ownage percentage is doesn't really make sense. And it's going to catch up eventually. But yeah, a lot of these guys should be owned for sure. These are like top players so far this season. I definitely think Cider is like the biggest breakout. Could be the biggest breakout guy for this whole season if he continues this the whole year.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, dude. Grab of the year, Jake Gardner. So.
Yeah, there we go. And I like Artem Zub too because he's just a big physical, brooding defenseman. He does a lot. He's good in a lot of categories. Definitely in a categories league and in a banger league, he's a great player. Maybe in a strict points league where there's no hits or blocks, he might not be as valuable. But in a banger league, this guy should be rostered. He's in the perfect situation. He's on a line where Thomas Chabot's going to get a lot of focus from the opposing side. So he, being on the other side of the ice as a defenseman, he has a lot more freedom to just go out there and play his game, which is kind of good because Thomas Chabot will kind of take care of all the nitty gritty, all the focus of the top like defensive players on the other team, trying to stop him. And then there's just Zub out there just doing his thing. So I don't know. I kind of like how the situation he's in and his style of play. There's a lot to like about Zub for sure. That's why I feel like he definitely has potential to still be a hold. So I feel like you should go out there and definitely be getting him.
For sure.
So now we'll break into some trade talk here. I have a little trade that I actually tried to make in my league this week. I'm still waiting to see if it'll go through or not. I signed it yesterday, but David Pastrnak, one of the top players in the whole league on Boston, he's off to a slow start. Slow start for him this season. He's normally averaging well over 4, and he's only averaging, right at 3 points right now.
Okay.
So kind of a slow start for him. I'm sure a lot of people that own him because he's a keeper or a first round pick in like every league this year. So definitely a little disappointing for where you drafted him because a lot of the first round picks or keepers are averaging like 4.5 or higher. So definitely people can be frustrated with him. So I sent over to the owner that has Pastrnak in our league. I sent over Alex DeBrincat and Damon Severson for Pasternak, and I think something like that could be a good trade because you're giving them it seems like a good trade to me because you're giving them a guy that is a proven scorer still in DeBrincat, who I don't like kind of the situation that he's in with Chicago going through all this trouble and just looking like a terrible team so far this season. Maybe that situation's not as good as we previously thought. Maybe just sell DeBrincat while he's hot because he's still in that situation and doing really well. You can try and capitalize on it before maybe even more crap hits the fan in Chicago. So,
Who was the second guy?
Damon Severson.
I don't think somebody's just going to give up a first round pick like that. But
early, just trying it. Just trying it because DeBrincat is still a good player that people would want. So, and he's doing really well. So I just thought that might be
where's the guy?
Something to think about. David Pasternak. He's on Boston. Pastrnak.
Okay.
But so that's just something. Maybe you can buy low on David Pasternak now in a chance, and it could be a chance to get him when you normally would never be able to trade for him because people obviously always want to hold on to him. Maybe this is your chance to maybe make a trade like that. So maybe why not give it a try? There's nothing wrong with sending the offer. And then we already mentioned this next one, Jacob Chichron. He could be a good buy low. If you're in a really deep league and you need some defense, he did just get an assist the other night, so he finally is on the score sheet. Maybe that will start opening the floodgates a little. So maybe now's your chance to send over an offer, and you probably wouldn't even have to do that much. So I think he's a very low risk buy low. So just go ahead and figure out an offer to do for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know, Jake, I want us to discuss this a little bit. What would be a good trade in a keeper or dynasty league for Eichel, knowing his injury history and about to get an obscure, risky surgery? What would be a trade that you'd be willing to send over to get someone's Jack Eichel in one of those types of leagues?
And what type specifically?
In keeper leagues or keeper. Dynasty leagues? Because obviously no one's going to trade for him in a redraft league because this is a lost year.
Yeah. But maybe some young talent that's hot right now, but you don't want your cornerstones or your team for a guy who could be shit.
Because when Eichel's healthy, you can justify sending over a 1-for-1 like Austin Matthews for Eichel. But obviously with Eichel's situation, you wouldn't want to send over something crazy like that. Like a 1-for-1 when he's healthy, that makes kind of sense. But
I'd send Pierre-Luc Dubois and Marieth Cider, maybe.
I think in a dynasty league for sure, that would be a great.
It's the most I would send at this point before his surgery and everything.
Well, I think that if you sent that to somebody in a dynasty league, I think they would definitely take that. That does seem like a good trade, and then you're just got to bank that Eichel's going to come back and be a top guy
you're taking the risk.
You're taking all the risk with that, but that is still a fair trade because you're giving up something that it's gonna hurt you a little bit losing those guys, but you're locking in a top 20 player if the situation goes perfectly. So
yeah, that'd be it for that's just looking at my team, but
right.
I don't know what you would send.
Oh, something like that. I could take a look at my team. So yeah, our league is a four player keeper league. So the Eichel talk does make sense for our league as well. I would probably send over a Lucas Raymond and Noah Dobson. Those are two young guys that can be top players in the future. I would send over something like that, especially in a dynasty league. Dobson and Raymond
Uh,
for Eichel would be a really good dynasty trade.
well, my offer was better.
Well, in a dynasty league, this would be a good offer, I think, that people would take because Noah Dobson and Raymond are so young and they can be both top 50 players in the future potentially.
Okay.
But, that's a couple years away. So that's why that I feel like that would be a good trade in a dynasty league because
Mm-hmm.
they're good, Raymond and Dobson right now, but they're not like they haven't broke into that superstar category yet because they're just so young still.
Yeah.
But so yeah, you just got to look at what you got and sell the future for something like that to get Eichel. And then lastly, in some trade talk, would you sell high on Kevin Shattenkirk right now, Jake? I think I know your answer to this.
Yeah, no, I did. Um,
Oh, you did.
yeah, I actually ended up picking a lot of really good defensemen up. I kind of stole the show there. So then, and then my forwards, that's where like all my power was to start the season. A lot of injuries happened, and some guys are not performing. So I needed to trade for a forward. So I did.
Sometimes you got to stick and move, and just figure it out.
So yeah, right now Shattenkirk is the fifth best, and he's 4.9 average. So it could bite me. But
I mean,
traded for Travis.
let me just let me just
What?
tell you, this isn't 2014, so I don't feel like this is gonna be who Shattenkirk is. He screams sell high to me right now.
Mm-hmm.
He there by next week he might be down in the low fours and he might never get up to averaging 5 again the rest of the season. This is your chance, and you picked the perfect time to do it, Jake, because there's no way that he's going to stay up near 5. I would be shocked.
Could just be
So
yeah. Renaissance years don't usually happen for people.
well, you gotta look because he hasn't had a great year like that, and this is like he's 4 seasons removed from being a top 10 defenseman.
Mm-hmm.
He's getting older. He's on a team that I still don't think is a good team. So all those factors, this is your chance to. You've gotten so much out of him right now to get you wins for 3 weeks. Now's your chance to have him get you wins for a championship by selling him high and getting some consistent talent. Because I'm banking that he's going to regress over the rest of the year. And that obviously is what you would be banking on. He could still be really good,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think he's going to keep number 5 defenseman the rest of the season.
Yeah, and I sold him at like number 2. So
Yeah, so why don't you tell us about your trade that you made?
yeah, I traded for Travis. I don't even know how you say his last name.
Travis Konechny.
Konechny. Okay, exactly how it sounds. All right. Yeah, he's not going off or anything right now, but I know he's just a little more. He's younger, and I usually try to go for more young to prime players over even the old good players that are still doing good. I don't know. So I think he can do better than 3.6 as well. So
He can, yeah.
it's kind of a sell high, buy low.
He's one of their top guys, so he
Mm-hmm.
definitely has potential to. And they have a better team this year, Philadelphia. So I feel like that's a good move because Shattenkirk's going to fall off. So that's why I feel like
I just
was
needed
fair.
some forward depth for sure because these 2 Blackhawks guys I'm holding are killing me, and I might drop them pretty soon.
Yeah, I'm with you.
They're not doing shit, dude. And like, a lot of people play conservative and they hold guys a whole month into the season before they decide to do anything, and I can't play like that.
Yeah,
So I usually give guys like 2 to, well, I've already made a bunch of moves, so I give them like 2 weeks tops, and like,
yeah. I
if
just
they're
had to
having a
make.
slow start, a lot of guys when they're having a slow start, it can drag easily to the All-Star break. Like,
Yeah,
it happens in a lot of sports.
I just had to make a tough decision on Alexis Lafreniere, the second year center on New York Rangers, who everybody's picking to have a breakout season, similar to Cole Caulfield. And, I had the quick hook on Cole Caulfield. I thought so highly of him in the offseason, but 2 weeks in, did absolutely diddly squat, and I was not afraid to drop him. And then like a week after I dropped him, they sent him back down to the minor leagues. So sometimes you just got to make the decision, and it's not always going to bite you in the butt. So you just got to go with your gut. And I just went with my gut now and also dropped Alexis Lafreniere for Brock Nelson, who was available in my league. I just felt like with the way Nelson was going off, and he's a more proven scorer, that was going to be my chance to definitely be okay with dropping Lafreniere, who has plenty of potential to go off, but he's just not doing anything. He's by far the worst player on my team right now. I just had to cut bait with him. So sometimes you just got to do it. As much as you like the name, sometimes you can hurt yourself by just being by liking to have the name on your team, but you're not getting the points. So you just got to make those tough calls.
Definitely.
So that's our trade talk. I'm just gonna move on to I got some watch list players for you to throw on your watch list. So just gonna fly through these here. Cole Sillinger, he's a center on the Columbus Blue Jackets. Young player, had a good week. Just watch him for a little bit because he did have 2 weeks where he really wasn't hitting up the score sheet. And he is a rookie, so there's obviously those are usually volatile with how those go. So just give him like another week, watch him, see how he does, and if he starts going off, obviously be ready to pick him up. He could be a top scoop going into next week. And then Jesper Brat, he is young forward on New Jersey. He's a young, exciting player, but he's extremely injury prone. So just similar to Sillinger, just watch him for like a week or two, see how he does, and be ready to scoop him up. And then Mike Riley, defense on Boston. He had a good game this week. He's not known as a scorer, but just watch him and see if he had just one good game or if he ends up being on some kind of hot streak, and just maybe stream him for the hot streak.
Okay.
And then lastly, Lawson Krause on Arizona. He had a nice week, but Arizona's booty cheeks. So just watch him and see how he does. If he's on a hot streak, maybe he's like a streaming option.
Definitely.
So those are my watch list. So now we'll move on to best and worst schedules. So the best schedules, there's a lot of good schedules this week. So this is definitely going to be a high scoring week, everybody. So be ready for a really high scoring matchup. So we have Boston, Calgary, Edmonton, Florida, LA, Montreal, New Jersey, Ottawa, Pittsburgh, St. Louis, Toronto, Vancouver, and Washington. All of those teams have 4 games this week. That's why, that's like 10 teams in the league that have 4 games. So prepare for a high-scoring week. And then Minnesota and Anaheim have 3 games, but they have the easiest schedules of the whole week. So definitely some chance to maybe pick up some streaming guys for a couple games to get you some points because they're playing some bad teams. And then the worst schedules of the week, Columbus, Chicago, Colorado, Dallas, and Tampa all have 2 games. So you're not going to get much from those teams this week. And then Buffalo has 3 games, but they're against Washington, Edmonton, and Toronto, 3 of the highest scoring teams in the league. So good luck to Buffalo this week. R.I.P. Buffalo. That's 0-3. I don't know what you think, Jake, but that's 0-3 to me.
Yeah, they're not that great, right?
Yeah, they're better than they were last year, but yeah, that's 0-3.
Yeah.
All right, so now since we just went over the best schedules, we'll go into my top streaming options for this week. So Edmonton and Boston, 2 of the teams, those teams have 4 games this week. So I'm looking at the backups. Mike Smith, he's gonna get a start or 2 this week with back-to-backs, and then on Edmonton, and then Jeremy Swayman for Boston, he's gonna get a start or 2 with the back-to-backs for Boston. So maybe you can plan ahead and plan to maybe pick up one of these guys for one of the games they play this week to get you some extra points. And then Nate Schmidt, defense on Winnipeg. He's going off, and he's consistently scoring right now. I would normally put a guy like this in top scoops if I didn't have years of evidence to tell me that Nate Schmidt isn't a consistent scoring defenseman. So he's doing well. So I'm saying go pick him up, but I'm putting him in streaming option because I feel like at some point he's gonna fall off. His scoring is gonna fall off a cliff, and he's gonna give you nothing except for like hits and blocks, and could end up on the waiver wire at some point this season. And until he proves to me that he can consistently score, I'm gonna say that what I've seen from him the last 3-4 seasons is who he is as a player, and I'm gonna put him on here as a streaming option for the time being. If in 3 months I'm still saying the same thing, then I'll move him to be like, okay, I was totally wrong on that. But so I just have him as a streaming option right now, but definitely go pick him up and ride him while he's hot and scoring.
Okay, for sure.
So those are my streaming options. So now we'll wrap it up with our scoop 'em up.
Scoop 'em up. Yeah, dude. Let's
get it. So my top scoop of the week, Bowen Byram, defense in Colorado. Remember Jake? He came out of the gates hot, scoring a goal and an assist in the first game. And I was like, definitely pick him up for a streaming option. But the only problem with him is he's on the third pairing and not on a power play. So that's why he's not higher owned. He's only 27.5% owned. Well, now's the time to go scoop him up because Cale Makar is on injured reserve. So therefore, who do they move up into that top power play spot? Bowen Byram. So that's definitely a guy you want to go grab because he has all the ability, just like Cale Makar has. They almost don't lose any skill moving him up into that spot. So he's going to be taking the league by storm over the next week. That's for sure.
Did you already grab him?
I did not grab him. Max grabbed him after the first game of the season. So.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And then Ryan Getzlaf, he's just going off and showing no signs of slowing down. He's definitely having a resurgent year. He looks great. He scored a goal in at least every game this week. I mean, he's just going off, scoring like crazy. I mean, he needs to be owned. He's a top 10 center so far this season.
Okay.
Anthony Duclair, same thing.
I
do declare. But Anthony Duclair, he's going off and showing no signs of slowing down. Just scoop him up. Very little risk to that. He's on a great team and he's on a good line. So he's on a power play. There's a lot to like there. And then Brock Nelson on the New York Islanders, he's going off and he needs to be rostered. He had a great week, and I think he can keep it up because he historically is a good scorer. And then Adam Henrique, he's not as old as Ryan Getzlaf, but similar to Getzlaf, he's an older guy, and he's having a resurgent year, just popping off.
I saw you grabbed him.
I didn't grab him.
Oh, you grabbed Brock then.
I grabbed Brock Nelson, yeah.
Okay.
And then Nate Schmidt, defense, Winnipeg, consistently scoring, ride him while he's hot, but I feel like he's more of a streaming option but still go scoop him up. And then Ryan
whoever
Graves,
dropped him is just not that's good at hockey, really. I mean,
yeah, seriously. Seriously. He definitely.
And then I dropped the next guy.
And then Ryan Graves, defense in New Jersey, great in a categories league. He hits and blocks, and he's scoring at the moment, and he looks like he's fitting well into his new team in New Jersey. So he's just getting more ice time because New Jersey was more thin at defense, so they were going to give him more minutes than he was getting in Colorado. They have a ton of defense in Colorado. He just wasn't getting the ice time. He's definitely in a better situation. There's a lot to like about how he plays and fits into that New Jersey team. So it looks like he's definitely a top scoop this week and could be a hold for the season.
Yeah,
then
yikes. I dropped him for I don't know, I thought he was just gonna be a Ryan Graves and he was gonna fall off. So he was almost down to 3 flat. And I was like, okay, here we go. Like he started good, but this is it. So I think I grabbed the guy, that Edmonton guy, Edmund Bouchard.
okay,
Because I wanted a higher upside, I guess, but
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. He's still
How'd that
doing
work
better
out?
than Bouchard's at 3.7,
Okay, so similar
but
production. Still,
Graves is at 3.5. So yeah,
he's looking
might have
good.
just
He's good in our league because he hits and blocks.
should have dropped worse players. Yeah, I don't know why I still God, who am I holding? Adam Larson. I don't know. I
Yeah,
probably could have dropped him, but I wanted to be like, I thought he could be more consistent than Ryan Graves, but
right.
we'll see.
And then Matt Duchene looks to have gotten that scoring touch back. He's looking really good. And
Okay.
then last scoop of the week, Erasmus Asplund, young forward on Buffalo. He's looking very consistent, and he's very good in multiple categories. Like he's a good scorer. His shooting percentage is right at a nice number where you like it to be, where you feel like that's not going to fall off a cliff. And he hits and blocks. He just does a lot. He's a good passer. There's a lot to like there. He could be a very nice player, and he's like under 10% owned. I mean, he's most likely he's available in your league. So go scoop him up and have him be like the last player on your bench, giving you good, consistent performance.
All right, for sure.
Oh, I like him a lot. Young guy.
Young guy, young buck.
But yeah, so those are our top scoops, and that's this episode. Thank you all for listening. This was just it's another ho hum week. Let's get her done.
You know what? I got a quick question.
Oh, okay.
Would you sell high on Sorokin?
I would not sell high on Sorokin because the Islanders are well coached. They have a good team. They're gonna be a playoff team again.
Okay.
He's got a great defense in front of him, so I would not sell high on Sorokin. I think you want to ride that out.
He's young, right? Though, like,
He's very young. They've been talking highly about him for years. So
okay, so this might actually be it. All right,
I didn't know. This is the breakout.
I don't know if he could keep it up like this.
Well, he has the talent. The way everybody talks about him to keep it up. Everybody's been high on this kid for a while. So
yeah, I guess I'll just have the 1 and 3 goalies. That's, no big deal.
He's got that combination you want in goalie. He's young, he's got a ton of talent, and he's got a great defense in front of him. So that's a situation that you don't find on a lot of teams with your goalies. So if you have that, you want to keep it.
Are you dropping Doc or Taves yet?
If I was going to drop anybody, I might. I still like Doc a lot, but I feel like if you're going to drop one, drop Doc and hold on to Taves. But that would be what I would do. But
okay, yeah, they're just, I don't know, man. Taves is worse than Doc.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's it for me. Sorry.
All right. Well, so yeah, that's curtains, everybody. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back next week. And let's do that hockey.
Yeah, like they say in hockey. Let's go do that hockey.